Hello and welcome to this month's LinkedIn Live. And I'll just wait a few seconds for people to join us. And as you do join, let me know which part of the world you are joining from today. Right, I'm going to get going because I know sometimes it does take a while for comments to feed through. So hello and welcome to a Visibility and Self-Promotion for Introverted Leaders. And I'm Carol Stewart. For those of you that don't know me, I'm an executive career leadership coach, author of Quietly Visible, leading with influence and impact as an introverted woman. And I coach leaders to lead with confidence, influence and impact. And I specialize in introverted leaders. And I also provide a range of workshops, webinars, training, talks to organizations who want to develop their leadership talent. So hi, Jackie, and welcome from Leeds. So self-promotion and visibility. Now, whenever I do workshops on personal branding or self-promotion for introverted leaders, I often have a conversation where people will say that a lot of what's associated with being visible, with self-promotion, personal branding, doesn't come naturally to them. And yes, that is true. But the way that the world of work is, you do need to be visible, because if people don't know you, know about you, know what you're doing, what you're achieving, then you're likely to miss out on opportunities, because research does show that extroverts get more opportunities in the workplace because their performance is more visible, and introverted leaders don't often talk up about their successes and their achievements, and they're quite happy to sit back and let their work speak for itself. But the reason why extroverted leaders or extroverted people in the workplace get more opportunities is because their performance is more visible. They're more likely to talk up about what they're doing, what they're working on, what they've achieved, what their successes are. And so if you do someone who does great work, but you find yourself constantly overlooked because no one knows about it, or self-promotion feels uncomfortable, even though you know it's essential for your career growth, then you're not alone. And this session will hopefully help you to manage that and to feel more confident about being visible and promoting yourself, because I will help to show you how to raise your profile authentically without shouting, without boasting, and without pretending to be someone you're not. And what we're going to be covering is why visibility and self-promotion matter for your leadership and career, and why introverted leaders often avoid doing those things, and looking at how to promote yourself in ways that feel authentic and naturally. And so hopefully by the end of this video, you'll be able to understand the real impact of visibility on your career progression, be able to identify your own visibility blockers, those things that get in the way, and you'll be able to apply strategies that will help you to raise your profile in ways that work for you. Because I have a saying that, you don't have to be loud to stand out as a leader, but you do need to be visible and you do need to have presence. So why does visibility and self-promotion matter? And please share in the chats your thoughts on visibility and self-promotion and how you feel about it. And so I'll give you an example. A client of mine who had gone for a promotion and was unsuccessful. And the feedback that she was given was that she didn't demonstrate how she met the criteria, and that she didn't demonstrate that she could perform at that senior level. and the feedback was that she talked a lot about the we, as in the team effort, but failed to sell herself and articulate the part that she played. And so whilst it's good to focus on the we and the team effort, it's not good not to let people know the role that you played in getting the results that your team have got. And so if you're not being visible, if you're not promoting yourself, then you can miss out on opportunities. If you're not visible, if you're not promoting yourself, then if you're not seen, you are often not considered. And in an ideal world, all leaders would spot talent and recognize the successes and achievements of everybody, regardless of how vocal they are about it, or whether they're just getting along and doing a fantastic job, but not talking about it or what they've achieved. But unfortunately, that is not the world we live in. We do not live in an ideal world. And so raising your visibility is important. And so exploring why introverted leaders tend to avoid self-promotion. So a lot of the activities that are required for visibility and self-promotion don't come naturally to people who are introverted. And also, introverts aren't typically bothered about being in the spotlight. They're quite happy to just get on with it. And we may not necessarily think about doing those things that are needed to raise our visibility, to raise our profile, because, like I said, it's not something that may come naturally to many of us. And it's something that you may have to be strategic about and be actively and intentional about being more visible. And so for some people, it may be that it's not a case that you can't do what is required. It's just that because it's not something that comes natural, because it's something that you don't really think about, then it may be something that you don't do. And so if I use myself as an example, prior to starting my coaching business in 2012, I was a leader in an organization, started off in a very junior role, worked my way up to a senior leader. And that was not something that I really thought about. And I remember being told that I should speak up more in meetings and tell people about the great work that I'm doing. And I used to think that, well, if I've got something to say or value to add, I will, but I wasn't just going to talk for the sake of talking. And also, I just didn't think about talking about and telling the world about what I'm doing or what my group's achieving. But as time went on and certain particular challenges and seeing that I was often overlooked, I recognized that I did need to become more visible. So I looked at ways in which I could do that, but without doing it in a way that felt uncomfortable. So joining particular committees and taking the lead on certain initiatives in the region or in the area, so that I would become more visible in that way. And some of the things that can get in the way of us being more visible or promoting ourselves is that fear of being seen as boastful. Many of us have been brought up to say that, oh, good girls don't brag or boast, or you shouldn't brag or boast. And it can feel like it's bragging or boasting when you think about it. It can feel self-centered, talking about yourself in that way. But it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be me. I've got a comment here from Justina. Visibility builds professional credibility, which leads to stronger internal networks and reputational capital. Thank you for that. And yes, that is true. And another reason why introverted leaders may not self-promote is, as I've mentioned, that fear of being seen as boastful, not thinking that they're good enough, or experiencing imposter syndrome and thinking that, well, if you start telling the world about your successes and achievements or what you're doing, that you're going to get found out that you're not really any good. And there's also it could be cultural reasons or internal beliefs about it not being the done thing. And as I've mentioned, we typically are not bothered about being in the spotlight, but it's a case of addressing those fears, those self-doubts that you may have about it, or looking at it as boasting or bragging, and thinking about how you can be visible and promote yourself more authentically. And so by reframing how you view self-promotion, then that will help to change how you feel about it, and that will help to change your behaviors towards it. So rather than looking at it as self-promotion, look at it as that you're sharing the impact that you've made. You're letting people know about the impact that you've made, and focus on the results and the difference that you've made. So if I take you back to the client who was unsuccessful at her promotion because she focused too much on the we, as in the team efforts, but didn't demonstrate how she personally could perform at that next level. And so rather than talking a lot about the we, what she started to do was acknowledge what the team had achieved, but being very specific about what she had achieved and demonstrating how she was performing at that next level. And so by reframing it and not looking at it as feeling uncomfortable, feeling that you're bragging, feeling that you're boasting, and looking at it as letting other people know about the impact that you're making, the difference that you're making, and the results. So focusing on the outcome, but being clear about the role that you played in the results that you've got. And one of the things I often recommend is using that when you're talking about your successes and achievements, is framing it within a story. So there's a beginning, there's a middle, there's an end, or using the STAR acronym, which is many people use when they're applying for jobs, and they're trying to, or when they are demonstrating their competencies or a particular competency and how they've achieved it. So using the STAR acronym, if you're not familiar with it, S stands for situation. So you describe the situation. T is for the task, what it was that you had to do and what was needed to be done. A is for action, what action that you took, and R is for the results. So framing it, using that as a framework, can help you to think about how you can articulate your successes, your achievements in ways that don't necessarily put the focus on you in terms of making it feel self-centered, but you're focusing on the outcomes, making it outcome focused, but being clear and very specific that that outcome happened because of something that you did. And so don't forget that. Other ways in which you can be more visible and promote yourself authentically is to utilize your strengths. So think about what your strengths are and how you can utilize them when you're raising your visibility. So are your strengths in listening? So how can you utilize that to make people feel that you listen, that they feel heard, that you are demonstrating influencing skills through your listening. So think about the ways in which you can use your strengths to help you self-promote, and be strategic with being visible. And this is something that I often coach my clients to do. So one particular client who, well, she'd reached an inflection point in her career. She'd been at the organization for quite a while, and she was thinking about what was the next for her, whether to stay within the organization. She was often being overlooked. She was a woman in a male-dominated environment, often being overlooked. And one of the things that we worked on was raising her visibility within the organization. and her getting more involved in committees and working closely with the CEO on particular projects, which enabled her to be more visible within the organization. And because she was exploring her options and whether to stay or whether to find something else, we looked at how she could start building her network, her external network, and also just being more visible within her industry. So she started attending conferences and networking at conferences, but as someone who didn't like networking, she developed a strategy that enabled her to network in the way that she preferred, and rather than working the room at networking events, being more strategic by identifying the people she wanted to connect with, and having more quality conversations rather than quantity. And she started utilizing LinkedIn, even though that was something that she had shied away from, but she started to utilize LinkedIn, reconnecting with people that she'd met over the years, making new connections, connecting with people that she'd met whilst networking, and as a result of doing all this activity, she became more visible within her sector and her industry. And what she did was she reached out to her LinkedIn connections, those who she'd met previously in person but had not been in contact with, and arranged to have coffees with them. And as a result of doing this, one of the roles that she had applied for as a Chief Operating Officer, one of her LinkedIn connections that she met up for a coffee with, turned out to be a non-executive director on the board of that organization she had applied for the Chief Operating Officer role, and she got the role. So while she got the role on merit, it helped that she had raised her visibility in that way. So think about how you can be strategic. Giving another example of the client who had been in a particular role, acting up into the role on a temporary basis, and there was a new CEO and the role was going to be filled, but the talk was that she wasn't going to be considered for it. And the CEO had never met her, but wasn't even thinking about considering her for the role. So we developed a visibility strategy, and part of that resulted in her getting sponsors. So people who are senior within the organization who could vouch for her, who could champion her. But not only did we identify people who could be sponsors within the organization, we identified external stakeholders who could also be sponsors. And so what she did was, with the external stakeholders, she worked on developing and nurturing the relationship with those who were at a more senior level. One day she was in the lift and the CEO was in the lift, and that was the first time she actually had a conversation with the CEO, and the CEO mentioned that he'd been at a meeting with their counterparts from one of the stakeholder organization, so the CEO of a stakeholder organization, and they talked about how much of a difference my client was making for them and how helpful that my client had been. And this brought her under the radar of the CEO. So the CEO, not previously given her the light of day, was now all of a sudden interested in what she was doing, because the stakeholders were praising her, their senior stakeholders were praising her. And so when the position was advertised, my client applied for it and she was successful. So think about what you can do to be strategic with raising your visibility. Other ways in which you can do it: you can do public speaking, so speaking on panels within your industry, whether it's a conference, whether it's an event, whether your organization is holding any events where you can speak on a panel or even be a keynote speaker, so you can demonstrate your knowledge and your expertise. Being a guest on podcasts, that's another great way of showcasing your knowledge and expertise and your thought leadership. I have a podcast, the Quietly Visible podcast. Many of you listen to it, I know. And if it's something that any of you are interested in doing, then being a guest on my podcast, I'm always open to have guests on my podcast who want to share their knowledge and experience that can help other introverted women leaders. So do send me a DM if that is something that you would like you to do. You'd be interested in coming on my podcast. Another thing is showcasing your thought leadership through writing articles for your industry, your sector. You know, if your industry or sector has a publication, looking on the website and looking at how you can contact them about writing an article for them. That is a great way to raise your visibility. Or even publishing articles here on LinkedIn. Another client who wanted to raise her visibility within her organization started publishing articles on LinkedIn and connecting with people in her organization that she ordinarily wouldn't have conversations with. And they saw her articles that she was writing, where she sort of talked about particular issues within the sector or challenges and how they could be addressed. And people within her organization saw this, and as a result, she became more visible within, and they would reach out to her and have conversations with her because she was showcasing her knowledge and expertise. It helped make her more visible, and it helped her when she was going for promotion within the organization. Utilizing social media, particularly LinkedIn, to share your knowledge and your expertise. Comment on your company's LinkedIn page when you see posts on there and share them and interact with them. Another client who, as part of her strategy, she looked at how she could engage with the company's LinkedIn page. And so she would comment on their posts and have interactions on the company's LinkedIn page on their posts. The CEO saw what she was commenting on, and he was quite impressed with what she was showcasing in terms of her knowledge and her experience, and asked her to get involved with working with a project with them. So those are just some ways in which you can showcase your knowledge and your expertise, which may feel more authentic, or even doing videos and recording videos, short videos, no longer than say 2 minutes, 3 minutes max, just sharing a bit of your knowledge and expertise and publishing them here on LinkedIn or whatever social media platform you think is beneficial. Another way is to join committees. So if your organization has employee resource groups or staff networks, joining those committees that help you to get involved and become more visible throughout the organization. Or if your industry or sector has different committees, joining those. Again, that's another way of showcasing your knowledge and expertise throughout your industry or sector. Another client that wanted to become more visible within her wider industry, that's one of the things that she did. She joined a regional, no, it was a national committee actually that she joined. And as a result of that, she became more widely known throughout the industry. And the last thing I want to say about some practical tips about raising your visibility and self-promoting is celebrating your achievements. So letting people know about your successes and achievements, and do that without bragging. So again, focusing on the outcomes, the results, and the difference that you've made. And there's various ways in which you can do this. It could be sending an email to somebody and including those people that you want to be more visible by. It could be doing the post on LinkedIn, and so that people within your organization, within your wider industry or sector see it. And one of the things that I highly recommend is keeping a success folder. It can be easy to forget your achievements over the course of the year, and then when you're applying for a role or when you're going through promotion and you're trying to think, well, what have I done over the past 12 months, and you can't remember because you've had such a busy year. So one of the things I highly recommend is keeping a success folder. It can be a virtual folder, it can be a physical folder where you keep a record of your successes and achievements throughout the year, so that you can easily access them when you are applying for promotion, when you're applying for new roles, and you can easily bring them to mind. So that's about it. Any thoughts, any comments? Hello, Audrey from Zimbabwe, and hello, LinkedIn user from the US. And do share any thoughts and comments. And to wrap up, I've covered why visibility and self-promotion matter, why introverted leaders avoid them, and how to be more visible and promote yourself in ways which feel more natural and authentic. And if you have any questions, do share them in the chat and I will answer your questions. And so hopefully now you're clear about how you can raise your profile as a leader without compromising who you are. Right. I've got a comment here from LinkedIn user, which I'm going to put on the screen. I co-wrote a book and I totally forgot until I was asked to list what I'd done. Great, thank you. And that was another thing that I didn't mention about writing a book. I talked about writing articles and publishing articles, but writing a book or co-authoring a book is another great way of raising your visibility and demonstrating your expertise and your knowledge. So thank you for coming on, and if you want more inspiration, then do follow me here on LinkedIn. I go live most months and we'll be live again next month. So if you're wanting to know when I go live, then follow me here on LinkedIn. If you haven't taken my confidence, influence and impact assessment, then go to aboundingsolutions.com under the free resources. There's an assessment if you're wanting to increase your confidence, influence and impact. That will give you ideas about areas that you can focus on. You can subscribe to my Quietly Visible monthly LinkedIn newsletter here on LinkedIn, or you can sign up to my mailing list for practical strategies and encouragement that I send out each week. If you go to aboundingsolutions.com, you can sign up for it there. So thank you, and until next month. But if you do have any questions, then do ask and I will stay on for a few more seconds and answer any questions. Or if you've got any comments to share about what you're going to do to raise your visibility and to self-promote, please share in the comments as well. All right, Jackie says, thank you, Carol. That was really interesting and helpful. I'm glad you found that helpful. Sylvia says she loves the success folder. I'm glad that you love that. All right, thank you, everybody. You're welcome, Kate. I'm glad you found that helpful. All right, if there's no questions, if you do have questions that you don't want to ask publicly, then do feel free to send me a DM and I will answer your questions. So until the next time, thank you and goodbye.